Why people no ban? Can I get your opinion of something? Since the W changes on Jinx are better than expected to make her low-key good, do you think the crit changes will low-key be good too? Jinx could very well be OP next patch. That's true. But the thing about it is like, sure, the crit changes are good on her, but they're also just like crazy on Lucian, and they're crazy on Kai'Sa. So I don't know, it feels like a lot of the people who are already crazy will like benefit from them well. Vayne getting a Phantom Dancer? That's insane.
That was August Browning, aka Riot Jinxie Lord, August Uwu over on Twitch if you want to go follow and ask them questions there when they stream, talking about what Jinx might be like, but also other AD carries might be like on this patch because of the crit item changes. And that's what we're going to be talking about, as well as what we usually talk about every 2 weeks. Welcome to Let's Talk Jinx, a weekly Jinx video we do every Wednesday on this channel about anything to do with Jinx, as well as it's acting as a weekly discussion thread on the Jinx subreddit, our League of Jinx. Make sure to go check that out and join the conversation. Every 2 weeks when a new patch drops, we talk about that patch, changes to Jinx in that patch, other AD carries that might affect your matchups, as well as something of a pseudo AD carry tier list done with your input as well, so I'm going to need your help in the comment section down below. But let's just jump right into it. First and foremost, there were no changes directly to Jinx, and there were no changes directly to other AD carries. The majority of the changes that will be affecting them came with the crit item changes. Some were reverts, some were, bringing back some things that were kind of gone and forgotten, and then also just a little bit of changing here and there. So I'll just jump right into those, and then we'll go right into the tier list. Cloak of Agility is being brought back to life. It will still cost the 800 gold it used to and give 20% crit chance. The reason it's being brought back is because it's going to build into Infinity Edge once again. BF Sword, Pickaxe, Cloak of Agility. Because Infinity Edge is basically kind of being reverted on everything except the stats when it gives you the crit chance bonus. It used to give you 250%, it's only going to give you 225%, and they're doing that because if they just reverted back to the 250%, it might be too strong, especially on certain champions, and they would just have to nerf it later. So they kind of want to make it, if it's going to end up being weaker, they could always buff it back up, but they want to kind of release it on that side so that way it's not too powerful, and then all these crit champions that you wanted to play on this patch you were so excited for just get permabanned instead. So with that being said, I can understand that too, where if we just did a complete revert on all the crit items to the way it was when they had to nerf it to begin with, we'd be back at square one and they probably would have to just nerf those items anyways, and I kind of don't want that. I kind of want this to actually be okay. So with that being said, they also brought back Essence Reaver. Now grants critical strike chance, no longer grants mana or Essence Flare. So basically what they're doing is one of two things between this Essence Reaver and the Spear of Shojin. Because with this Essence Reaver, this is kind of the revert to the older Essence Reaver that we used to have. The one on live, though, is one that you see some bruisers and stuff like Renekton build. And so they kind of wanted to preserve the ability for Renekton and I guess like Fiora, possibly, and people like that to still build an Essence Reaver kind of item, while still giving AD carries the old Essence Reaver back for things like Xayah, Lucian, Sivir, things like that. So we have this one, which is kind of the revert to the old one we used to have, and the Spear of Shojin, which is now, grants attack damage, health, cooldown reduction, and Awakened Dragon, renamed Essence Flare. It's basically what's on live Essence Flare that it kind of appeals to bruisers, so the Renektons and people that want to build it. Also, they kind of wanted to give melee champions like divers and stuff an item. Remember, they were supposed to get like items and stuff back in like 8.12, 8.13, and that was kind of shelved and cancelled because of how chaotic the midseason was between mages and AD carries. So, that being said, that's what Spear of Shojin is. We as AD carries will probably never actually be building it, but that's what it's there for and what the changes here are. Like, that's supposed to be what live Essence Reaver is, so that those champions can still keep building it, and then we get old Essence Reaver back. That's kind of the TLDR. Stormrazor now amplifies your energized effects and causes them to slow a target. No longer grants a guaranteed critical strike after not basic attacking for a few seconds. So the analogy I like to use is think back a couple seasons ago where you would stack Static Shiv and Rapid Fire Cannon, and together they'd be really powerful to the point they had to nerf it. Vayne would like rush Static Shiv and Rapid Fire Cannon because it just would work. Stormrazor is kind of like that if you build those two items and this now. So you have to build 3 items for that, but you can still kind of get that back. It will power up those attacks even more, and also slow a target when you hit them, which that's kind of new that they added like within the last week to these changes. Phantom Dancer now grants a shield at low health, but no longer decreases damage from the last champion you hit. Special Warts now triggers on attack rather than proximity to enemy champions. Now here's the thing that I don't think some people were understanding, and I didn't do a good job explaining, so it is my fault. Riot wants it so that crit building champions can have a good defensive item that won't deviate them from their main path or put them behind their main path because they have to deviate to build it. What that means is that they don't want you to go and build like something like Bloodthirster, which I thought someone in the comment section in one of my videos brought that up. I thought that would be an interesting idea too, since that item already exists. Maybe just a little bit extra buffing would make it like a viable earlier item if you need a defensive option. But that's not what Riot's trying to do, is what I need y'all to understand. What they want to do is be like, hey, you can still build crit, and one of those crit options will have a defensive option in it. So that way you can still build this item, still get your 2, item power spike, and also have a defensive option early if you need it. They don't want you to build like, Hex Drinker, or, Maw of Mortius even completed if you would go that far, or Guardian's Angel, or Lifesteal. They want you to still be able to build crit, and then one of those crit options have a defensive option in it. So with that Bloodthirster example that someone brought up, they would have to like put crit or something in Bloodthirster for them to even consider that. They want you to still be able to build your crit, because it takes 3 items to get your power spike, possibly, and they don't want you to deviate from it and such like that. So that's their idea behind this Phantom Dancer, is they want to go, hey, this isn't as good maybe as Static Shift or Wave Clear or Runon's Hurricane if you're playing something like a Jinx, but you can still build it, you'll still get crit that you need from it, and then a little bit of a defensive option. So that's kind of like the counterplay too, is that you'll still get the crit, but it won't be as good as building like your Runon's Hurricanes or something like that. So that being said, there are some cost changes to the, I can never pronounce this, Tearless Shard. It's going down to 600 gold from 800, which means Zeal is going down from 1300 to 1200, and the Zeal items are all going down from 2800 to 2600. The last change, of course, being there is a cost increase to Last Whisper, since you don't get the true damage on the Infinity Edge anymore. Last Whisper, they're deciding to also bump up the cost, but they're also bumping up the attack damage to 20. And as such, Lord Dominic's Regards and Mortal Reminders are both going up in attack damage from 40 to 45. They do have some build suggestions, which is part of what we're going to do this video about, is now with these items coming live, what do you think should be the build order for whatever AD carry you play? If you're still watching this video, and the reason you're watching it is for the tier list, we're about to get into that, but now that we've gone over the items and you know what the items do, that might change your opinion on what your tier list might be as well, so that's kind of what I want to cover that too. But what do you think for your champion if you play Caitlyn, Jinx, Tristana, whatever? Lucian, of course, because like August said, those champions might be more powerful too. So even though, like, in my opinion, what we talked about last week on last week's episode is Jinx specifically has the bonus AD in her rockets, and back on patch 8.13 they made it so that bonus AD can also crit. Jinx, even though it's only 225% on Infinity Edge instead of the 250, might actually benefit the most because of her, in her rocket form at least, she'll actually be getting a lot more damage than other AD carries might be, so it won't be as much of a nerf for her at least, even going down from the 250 to 225. So she might actually be pretty powerful, which is why I asked them that question. Is there a worry she might be too powerful in terms of the crit AD carries at least? And then their answer is kind of like no, or they could be, but things like Lucian and stuff could also just be more powerful as well with a crit build, and then kind of keep her in line that way, so then they wouldn't be too powerful and they won't have to nerf her, so I'm totally fine with that. Now, finally, let's get into what you're actually here for, the AD carry tier list. Now, if you're new here, what we tend to do is I give you information across different patches and stuff, and we kind of try and put together what champions seem good or not, but ultimately I need your input. What I mean by that is, like, let's say you're Diamond. Let's say we've talked about these changes, we talk about some champions that are powerful, and you talk about your game experience, and then you create your own AD carry tier list as a Diamond player in the comment section down below, so that way when people see these videos, they can go to the comments, have a conversation with you about why you think that is, and such like that. So that way you can also be helping just as much as I possibly am helping or not helping. Let's find out. We'll start with ggGetJinxed, mainly because they have an option where you can take the ranks and just go all ranks to see like an average. Jinx is actually kind of up there right now. Speaking of Jinx specifically, I'm going to be using Jinx as my talking point, by the way, but you can see other AD carries as I screenshot this and such like that. Yasuo is disgustingly up there, and I say disgustingly up there because if these crit item changes end up being good on him too, then it's not going to be a nerf at all, right? Like, he's actually going to be more powerful as well as other crit ADs, so apparently across the board averagely, he's up there, but Jinx is up there in the top 5. Sivir, like we kind of said, was going to be good. Kog'Maw is kind of surprisingly up there. But with the crit item changes, crit Kog'Maw was a thing way back in the day. I don't know if it's going to be a thing now. But if it is a thing, maybe he's in a position to be more powerful. And of course, Miss Fortune, depending on the elo especially. Lower elo, Jinx and Miss Fortune are way more powerful and just better than they are in higher elo because games don't necessarily close out always. So even if you're Jinx and low elo and you get behind, you'll probably reach that late game a bit more often, right? You probably will get to that 30-40 minute mark more often in lower games where they don't know how to close out games than you will in higher games. Or you can just bully really well with Miss Fortune. That's why she's pretty good down there too, because you might get more ults off, people might not know how to CC you, walk out the ult, such like that. It's great. There are other AD carries if you round out the top 10. Still some lane bullies like Lucian. Vayne, of course, is up there, but I think the reason she's not like top 3, even though she seems really powerful, is because those changes they did to her were only good really in a Vayne main's hands, or someone that's at least willing to be proactive. It wasn't like a, hey, here's like just 50 more damage on your auto attacks, so no matter who you are, you can just do well, right? You gotta actually be proactive with the change, and if you are, it's great. If you're not, you're still gonna probably struggle on that champion. Lucian and Draven are up there, and they probably are in position to be better. Like we said, there's some crit AD carries down here like Tristana and Caitlyn not doing so well, but they might be about to be in a position to be doing more better. If we switch over to a site like champion.gg and we go Platinum Plus, which is like Diamond and higher, we actually see in terms of the mages, things like Heimerdinger and Ziggs doing pretty well. But in terms of crit AD carries, Twitch, Jinx, Sivir, Ashe, Draven, Cassiopeia's still there, but like low-key apparently according to some of these sites. Jinx is apparently a good counter to Cassiopeia in lane, so if you're playing Jinx, you might not have to worry about Cassiopeia that much, so that's kind of interesting. If we switch to, say, op.gg, which kind of only really focuses on Korea specifically, so if you care about Korea, or you think Korea is better than everybody else and such like that, especially their solo queue, when you look at the tier list over there, Lucian is actually pretty high up there, because lane bullies are still kind of a thing right now, him and Ezreal. Like I said, Vayne, if you're proactive, you know how to use her. Kai'Sa's actually still in the contention up there, but Jinx is still in top 10. And once again, based off of August's clip, based off of the changes in 813 to her rockets critting on the bonus damage, and just the fact that she has the bonus damage on her crit rockets at 10%, I think Jinx is actually in a position to be one of the most powerful AD carries on this patch. And even though the things like Lucian and stuff can build crit, if I had to give my own opinion for those that actually care about my opinion specifically, why I'm going to say that is just because I don't really see people building crit Lucian anymore. I like crit Lucian, especially with the oldest since Reaver. I just go 100% and you have so much mana and stuff and crit because it was 100%. It was ridiculous, but not a lot of people really either like that playstyle or they see Lucian as more of an earlier game champion, a champion to pick, to bully lane, and try and close out the game before the late game even gets there. So Xayah, meanwhile, might be better and stuff like that, and I think Jinx is actually low-key going to be pretty good because of her rocket form, but again, it's basically going to come down to crit champions, and I need your help, because I need you to comment in the comment section down below what you think is going to be good, what you think is going to be great, what do you think about these changes, what do you think about this patch period, and then finally, one of the places we could also look at is Mobalytics. They tend to make their tier list based off of what's good to climb with, rather than if it's like super powerful or not. And even they have an S tier Jinx, but also Sivir, Cassiopeia, Yasuo, things that we kind of already talked about with the other tier list. But as you see in the A tier, things like Lucian, Kai'Sa, Miss Fortune, Vayne, Draven, they're all there. B tier, things like Caitlyn, Tristana, the more struggling things, Jhin, we've talked about, but again, they're probably going to be a bit more powerful. But in terms of Jinx specifically, Jinx is basically what I'm saying is she's low-key good. And if you can play Jinx and you don't really play Jinx, now is the time to play Jinx. If anything, 9.2 was the time to play Jinx. 9.3, she's probably going to be on more people's radar, maybe even contested, maybe even banned, especially if you're in lower elo. Some people, when Jinx is powerful in low elo, they don't want to bother with her. They hate her guts. So there you go. So that being said, that's going to be the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and comment with your own tier list. Of course, based on your elo, experiences might vary. Like me, let's just hypothetically say I did my placements, placed in Plat 482 LP. Then my experience and what I think might be good or not, encounters and blah blah blah, is going to be different from you in say Silver or Diamond or Masters, Grandmasters, whatever, right? So, that being said, thank you so much for watching this video. I know this video will be next, as life can have a lot of kings. So until this time, take care. GG, get jinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.